Hey folks, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter podcast. When I first started my martial arts journey, actual formal training in my early 20s, I started with a very traditional style of karate. So traditional in that we had our uniforms, right? Our gis, with our belts. We did a lot of bowing to each other. We did a lot of speaking of Japanese, not conversationally, but we counted in Japanese all of the different techniques that we performed. We referred to them by their Japanese names, all of that, But one of the bits of formality that I really appreciated, and I still carry on to this day, regardless of the formality or casualness, if you will, of the place that I might be training, it's the bow. And it's not only bowing to people, but specifically I wanted to talk to you today about bowing into and out of your training area. And in my case, we called our training area the dojo. And it was such that every time we train, right, before we enter the dojo, before we cross that threshold, we just, bow and walk in. Or if we're leaving, we're backing out. Before we leave the dojo, we bow and then we step backwards out into, into the hallway, So that was something that I really appreciated. Just because it represented kind of a sacredness to the time that we were spending there. Our class was an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes if we're sparring, and it made it that much more special because where do you bow, right? It's like, particularly in our culture in the United States, we don't really bow very often, if at all. So for me to do that, it represented something special. I mean, I remember it was kind of like the same feeling as going to church, and making the cross on your body, or kneeling before you enter the pew. It showed that this was something special. It marked a special moment, a special occasion, not necessarily celebratory, but it was different than other things that you did. But one day, my instructor told us something else that really stuck with me all the way up to even now. I mean, I continue to do what he says. And here's what he said. He said, when you are out and about in the world, all the things that you do before you come here, you carry a lot of that with you. You carry the thoughts, you carry the stresses, you carry the worries, you carry, the excitement of all of that. And a lot of people bring that into the training area and into their lesson with them. And he said, this is what I would suggest to you, is that, before you bow, before you, actually start your training, is that you imagine next to the doorway there's a bag. And imagine yourself taking all of the stresses and thoughts and worries and cares and distractions that are in your body and in your mind, take them out of you, put them into that bag, and then you can just tie it up. And then after you do that, that's when you bow and you go in. So it's not just about training. It's about training with focus, training with your mind clear so that you can get the most out of yourself and your training partners. And he continued and said, now after you bow out of the class, you could imagine that bag might still be there. In which case, you have that option to open that bag up, put all that stuff back into your mind and body. Maybe you pick it up and take it home. Or you may just notice that it's gone. Somehow disappeared. Maybe somebody saw a bag and they just decided to take it and whatever was in there, but that is your choice. So think about that. And I absolutely did. And I'll tell you what, after every training session, I never saw a bag. Never saw a bag. It was like therapeutic in a sense, not only preparing me for all the kicks and punches and physical expenditure of the class, but it was like a weight was lifted from me. And I think that's one of the reasons that I continue to go to class so much and I was so fervent about it, is because it really helped not only physically, but just emotionally in that case as well. So that's something I do to this day, is before I even bow into our training area, I imagine that I'm just clearing my mind and body of all of the stuff that I was carrying, and I just put it in that bag. And again, it's more often than not, it's such that I find that I have nothing to carry with me. In fact, it's usually that I've forgotten about the bag completely. Now, I'll tell you it's not always the case, right? It's not always 100% where I clear myself and then, all those things stay in the bag. Sometimes, you get little critters in there that kind of find their way back into your head. And you know what? That's just going to happen. It doesn't stop me from continuing to clear myself every single time in any case. So it's something that I try to do not only with my training, but also outside, right? When I'm working, I've got on my calendar, I've got to do this particular task or get this particular piece of the project done. Then as much as I can, I try to anchor myself, not necessarily bowing in and out of my office, but something where I just take a deep breath, clear my mind, clear my head, and okay, let's just get to it. It's also with my family, right? If we go to the park or we're having dinner, it's just clearing myself, setting my intentions, making sure that I'm focused as much as possible, as much as I can be, on not just spending it with them, but having that real quality interaction with my family. So, yeah, that's it. Anyway, folks, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter Podcast. I'll talk to you next time.